We're back on.
So, let's run this back a little.
All right. The show tonight
Yes.
is about BFS,
BFS.
which is Bait Finesse System.
Yes.
Right? So this is a fairly new technique that originated in Japan. I don't think I mentioned that earlier, so I'm glad we're doing this again.
All right. Good.
Anyway, so this is BFS style fishing. It is a finesse approach using a casting reel. And originated in Japan. It's made its way over to the US and obviously many other countries as well for a lot of bass fishing, a lot of trout fishing. I think in Europe it's popular for like perch. I don't really know what else. That's it. Perch for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, like you said, bass fishing, but the cool thing is they're taking an ultralight and throwing it with a casting reel.
Correct.
And of course, we're going to walk through how that happens. We're going to show you some different reels you had mentioned earlier. Shimano makes one. Cast King makes one. We've got them both here. We're going to show you, because on the outside or with the line spooled on it, you might not notice, but Cast King and Shimano, they got a really, really shallow spool. It almost looks like a, some of the surf casting reels, the spinning reels have a really long stroke and the spool's real wide.
Right.
So that helps with distance, and that's kind of here because we're going to be throwing stuff like 4-pound braid, or we're going to be throwing 4-pound fluoro or mono on a casting rod, chasing anything from bass to trout. So we're going to walk you guys through selecting the right blank. We're going to talk about what lures you're going to use. And kind of the scene, we're going to set the scene because you can use it anywhere, but why you would choose a specific blank might be more based on where you're fishing than maybe what you're fishing for or how you're fishing per se. So, and then of course, we're going to go over some guide spacing, right?
Yep, guide spacing. We'll do a little bit of deflection. Most of these blanks that we're going to get into soon are going to have an ultralight or a light power. So they're going to be they're going to have a lot of bend to them.
Yes.
But we're still trying to maintain a certain action. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But since these rods do have a lot of flex to them, we need to make sure that guide spacing is set up correctly. So we'll get into a little deflection. Yep. And also, we got to talk about handle. The handle, most of these are going to be in the probably 6-foot range.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit longer, but really nothing over probably 6'6".
Yep.
So with that, you're going to be using just a shorter handle in general. Not necessarily different components, really. We'll get into those too, but you're going to be using shorter handle lengths. So
very cool.
And as always, we got some great prizes.
Good prizes, as always.
A little different with this show. We're actually going to be giving away components for 3 different rod builds.
Yes.
We have a kind of an entry level that utilizes a lot of CRB components and a CRB rod blank.
Right.
We've got a mid-tier, and then we also have our premium BFS rod.
Right.
Now again, we're not giving away the full rod. We're giving away the blanking components
so
to
you guys
build
can
that
build
rod.
It. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. As always, with the giveaway, it's going to be a like and share, comment kind of deal. And we have an automated system in there. It's nice. The guys behind the scenes there can hit a button and it's completely random. So when you're in the show and you like and share and comment, it will recognize that. And that's how it throws you in the giveaway. So we do have a new product, though.
We do. This is a long-awaited new product.
Yes, because it's something that, if you have a power wrapper, but you don't have the CRB track, maybe you've got a power wrapper from old. Tell us how we fix that problem.
Yeah, so if you guys at home have a Pack Bay, an American Tackle style power wrapper, and you want to incorporate these new the CRB Pro roller stands. These obviously do not adapt out of the box just like they are. They do not adapt to the track system on the Pack Bay or American Tackle power wrappers. So I'm going to bring
this is what the bottom of ours looks like.
Right.
So it's just these small T-bolts that will rotate and fit the center track that we have here. So the RBS system is 3 small grooves in it, tracks, if you will. And then, of course, the older C-channel style that you might have that what is American Tackle and Pack Bay and things like that actually looks like this. Hunter will turn it over for you. So we've got a large channel in the center here, and then the small channel here on the outside that items that have the roller bearings like thread carriages and tool carriages and things like that fit in. But this big center channel here won't fit the roller stand and a number of different items that CRB Pro has. So we fixed it.
Correct.
Hunter Man, walk us through that.
Yeah, so what we have here is, now I have a Pro stand here, and what I've done is, for one, we have the offset roller arms on here, so if you guys have not checked these out, definitely do that. I've taken the hardware off of the existing roller stand, which is your 2 knobs at the top, 2 washers, 2 springs, and then your T-bolts. So what I've done is, the new product, it's going to come in a package all together nice and neat, but this is essentially what you're going to get here. Is you're going to get, take these off here, you're going to get 2 plates. So our top plate is what the Pro stand is actually going to sit in. In the middle, we have sandwiched a rubber gasket, and then at the bottom, we just refer to that as the bottom plate. So with these 3 pieces and the included hardware, what you're going to do is, I'm going to piece these back together just real quick. And these,
and you mentioned the hardware comes with the adapter plate.
Correct. The hardware comes with the adapter plate. You don't have to buy anything separately. So I've got the bolts coming from the bottom, and these are recessed on the bottom.
Yeah, they're kind of keyed in, right?
They're keyed in, so it makes it a little bit easier for assembly. So what I'm going to do is, with these 3 pieces put together, I'm just going to put this right on my desktop, or my desk, and I've got the bolts coming from the bottom through the top. And again, all I'm going to do is put my Pro stand, I'm going to line my bolts up, slip that right on, and then I'm going to add my springs. Hopefully I'm not covering that up. Cool. I'm going to add my washers on top of the springs. Lastly, I'm just going to do a couple turns to lock all this hardware in with the knobs, the tension knob on top. A couple turns there on each side.
And of course, with those bolts being keyed on the bottom, it really...
No need for any tools, no tools required. Yep, super easy. So once we have this all together, and again, make sure you put a couple turns on those knobs. What's cool about this with the springs is, I'll get a little side view here, is you can actually press this forward, and you can see that plate pops out from the bottom, right? So what that allows you to do is simply press that down, and you're going to slide the adapter plate and the entire assembly right onto the track for your American Tackle or Pack Bay Power Wrapper or any C-channel track system you may have. And just like that, now you're able to use the CRB Pro roller stand in conjunction with those wrappers.
That's it.
Super easy assembly. The way I showed it is the way we have it in the instructions.
Right.
I recommend you follow those instructions. You can certainly put this stand on the track and try to fumble with all the hardware and the plates and assemble it on the track. It's very difficult. I do not recommend that.
Don't do that.
Just as a tip, go by the instructions or go by the way I just presented it to you, and it will be very, very easy. So if you guys are looking to upgrade your roller stands, check out these from CRB Pro and get your adapter plates if you got a anything other than an RBS track.
And I love that, you know, with the spring-loaded pieces, you know, it allows you just push the spring loads down. It drops the base plate away, which releases the rubber gasket, and it lets you slide it. You know, if whatever rod you're building on, you know, if you got a guide in the way or something like that, you know, you're not having to release wing nuts and undo anything. You can just push it down. So like this right here really isn't going to go anywhere once you get these tight, right? But then you can push those down
I just
and slide it.
push them down, release the springs, or disengage the springs, engage, I don't know, whatever you want to say there. Push those down and you can move it up and down your track very easily. Like you said, you don't have to fumble around with washers and wing nuts and all that. Very easy.
I like it.
Cool.
When is that active?
It should be on the site right now.
Okay, it is active. I thought so, but you know.
Should be.
I'm just, you know, just the on-camera guy. Awesome. All right, cool. So you can do that, and that is for the roller stand, adapter plate for the roller stand. Wonderful. All right. We have a photo contest for those that are members of the Mudhole Live Rod Builders Workshop on Facebook. We have picked 3 finalists because we are now in the end of quarter 2, so that ended on the 15th of June. You were required to have your photos in. Of course, you're supposed to post them, hashtag build the number 2 win. This month, it had to do with a grip and grin. So we wanted fish catches with that custom rod. The guys put together a little deal showing off the 3 finalists here. So, and of course, now that the 3 finalists are there, we're going to put a post into the Rod Builders Workshop on Facebook, and the group will vote on the winner. So there's 3 to vote for. The winners are going to get a $250, a $150, and a $100 gift card to Mudhole, as always. And then coming up soon, we'll pick our Q3, what's coming up next for our photo contest. But yeah, let's go ahead. You guys ready to run that? We can reveal who the 3 finalists are. Awesome. So there's your 3 finalists. Winners will be announced Friday, July 1st. So you have until, we will get the post, we'll get the poll up probably tonight. So when everybody wakes up fresh tomorrow morning, they can start voting. We'll have the names and the images there on the poll in the Mudhole Live Rod Builders Workshop. And you guys just vote whoever you like best, and it'll sort it out first, second, and third, and we'll get it to you. So. Demo time.
Let's jump into it.
That's it.
So, BFS Fishing. If you guys missed the intro, BFS is a Bait Finesse System. It's a relatively newer type of fishing or application of fishing that utilizes a finesse casting rod to throw very, very small lures. I mean, I'm talking, I don't even know if you guys can see this little thing. I mean, that is just, what is that? It's crazy.
Love it. So we threw anything from that super tiny Rapala there. This is a little, what is this? This is an ultralight minnow from Rapala as well. Little popar, like a mini, tiny popar, or a UL pop, they call it. Sorry, are you having to chase me around here with the zoom? Nice, we'll just kind of. And then, of course, the old whopper plopper that most of the time everybody's used to throwing in like a 90 or a 130. No idea what this is. This looks like a 20 or something. So anyway, the guys went out and had a little fun with these. So let's talk a little bit about taking, you know, what are we going to do with a light or an ultralight rod? We're going to build it casting and throw it on a casting reel.
Yeah, so I think, you know, we got to kind of go back to the area or kind of like the conditions that you're going to be using this rod in, right? Because I think there's kind of 2 different distinctions here. One is if you are fishing, say, in a stream, in a creek, tight quarters, maybe you have some bass that are trout or bass or anything that's really finicky, really picky, super clear water. This is where this is going to shine.
Yeah, well, you're not going to be dragging like a 10-inch worm on a Carolina rig in like a knee-deep stream in North Carolina with with overhanging. I mean, I would love to think that there's a 10-pound bass swimming around in there. There's probably not.
Probably not. But this is the type, or this is the technique or the way that you can target those finicky fish, especially when you're in those close quarters, tight quarters, overhanging trees. Now, the opposite of that is this technique can still be used if you take your boat out, right? You can still apply those same principles. The only thing that's going to change a little bit is you can get away with using maybe a little bit longer rod. You're not having to, you don't need that 5.5 or 6 foot rod to be able to do the little pitch casts or underhand flips or any of that trick shot, magic that they do.
You can still use a 7.3, but in a 0 or a 1 power, and throw these super ultralight baits on it.
Yeah.
And some of this we're talking about, I just kind of want to preface this a little too, because it's going to depend on where you fish, like whether you're in a stream, whether you're down here in Florida. The guys went out to some creeks where we don't have trout. So we might be catching panfish or bass, and there's some kind of heavy cover around. Our BFS ultralight lights might vary a little from somebody that is going to be throwing, a small little road runner for trout, or maybe one of these little ultralight diving cranks. We might be having to step up in power and sacrifice a little bit of the ultralight capability, or we'll never land a fish, even though we're still fishing it on very, very light stuff. So we're going to kind of bounce around a little, and like Hunter was saying, we might use something that is a 6-footer or a 5.6, but we could also pull out, a 7.3 model, because we're not on a stream. We might be on a lake that has a ton of fishing pressure on it, or maybe it's a lake that people are constantly buzzing around on jet skis and putting a lot of not only fishing pressure, but just, boating and people pressure on it. You're going to have to try to catch them on like 4-pound and really small lures and things like that. So keep some of that in mind, and we might jump around a little bit in terms of rod lengths and stuff, but just kind of stay with us on that. That's what we're referring to, that BFS is much wider than just like a trout in a stream with a casting reel.
Yep. Let's talk about these reels real quick. So this is a Cast King, and I kind of wanted to point out, if we can get a zoom on this, and I'll try to get the angle just right. The big thing about these is obviously they're a little smaller profile, but the spool is trying to catch it just right. If you guys can see that, the depth of that spool it's very shallow.
Yeah.
And what that allows you to do is obviously, we can still pack on a decent amount of very light line.
Right.
But the big key to actually the BFS technique and being able to control that light lure is being able to thumb that spool. That's where the difference in using a spinning reel compared to this casting reel. Casting reel is going to give you way more control, just by being able to feather that spool. And in a sense, you're using your thumb almost more than you're using, these cast controls on the side here.
For sure. I think you get it dialed in a little, you can probably, just like with anything, if you're throwing into the wind or whatever with a regular lure, you've got to use the cast control a little bit. But I would agree with you 100% in terms of, you can just turn that light lure loose when you have everything dialed in correctly. But that, I think you use the term feathered, and you're going to be able to drop the lure in somewhere very delicately on a dime, that you're not going to be able to do with a spinning rod. Because with a casting rod, you can really turn it loose and put the brakes on it at any moment during that cast.
Right.
With a spinning reel, most of the time, yes, you can skip it, but I can promise you're not going to be skipping this, right? Probably not going to be skipping that little guy. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to have to come in low and then stop it. Whereas if you do that with a spinning rod, you're going to have to just measure the cast perfectly, or you got to try to put your hand on the spool to stop it. That's a mess to try to stop it on a dime. And then when you do, sometimes it jerks and comes back at you and then plops down. And anybody's ever fished for, trout or other wary fish in small creeks, like, that's a big no-no.
It is, yeah.
That's why they throw a fly at them, Not only do they eat that stuff, but you can approach them very quietly. So
Be subtle.
being able to feather that in there is very important.
Yep. So that's one little key concept is obviously the reel. And again, Shimano, Cast King, I think Daiwa's got a model or two. And they range in price. This is not, BFS is not something that has to break the bank by any means.
Yeah.
Hence why we have the 3-tier rods.
Yeah.
Same with the reels. You could probably get them as low as, I'd say probably 50, 75 bucks, and then upwards of, I'm sure they get very expensive.
Yeah.
Especially, the JDM style reels. But
Of course.
this does not have to be an expensive technique to kind of get into. You can, you can do it on a budget if you need to.
Yeah, and I think we're going to show that because we have CRB rod blanks and CRB components that are excellent. To be honest with you, we threw this CRB 601L, which I throw the 701L a lot inshore, redfish and bonefish and permit and stuff. Now, granted, it's on a spinning reel.
Right.
But they threw the 601L, and we even have an ultralight too. It's what, the 5.5 footer?
Yes.
That'll work as well. But again, we probably erred a little on the side of light instead of ultralight because of where the guys were fishing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't have to just empty your bank account to get this done. So lure-wise, we threw everything from, Z-Man has the Ned, right? The little turd, they call it, with a mushroom head jig. I think anybody that's been bass fishing, in the last 5 or 10 years has helped put Ned's kids through college. So this is an incredibly popular lure, and it just catches them. So we've caught them out here in the pond and everywhere in between, but throwing that really, really small, from a 16th or so ounce head with the Ned rig has been really nice because it does allow you a little bit, different action, how to work it around grass, especially here in Florida. That's been kind of important. So having it on a casting reel has been, has been nice for the guys too. We have also thrown, like I said, we showed you the whopper plopper and the poppers and different things like that. And, I had mentioned not being able to skip lures because of size, and it's not necessarily because of size. Sometimes it's more of, their make. Like, soft plastics and stuff you can probably skip at any size. Where you run into skipping, lures is going to be, their makeup. So what lure it is and the shape. So being able to bring it in super low and stop it on a dime with a casting reel certainly does have its advantages. So now that we've kind of gone over that, the reels that we've got here, we talked about line just a little bit, the guys chose really, really ultralight braid. We did that here because that braid cuts our, hydrilla and some of our grasses here just like a hot knife in butter. It really does. Whereas sometimes the mono and the fluorocarbon don't cut the grass as well. But if you're not fishing around a lot of grass or a lot of heavy cover that's kind of like that and you're more in open water, I would opt for, light fluorocarbon. There's a number of different brands out there, but anything from, probably 2 to 4 to maybe 6.
Maybe 6, I think so.
Yeah. It probably depends a little bit on what you're fishing, but I would certainly try to dial it back and go to like 4 is probably where I would start. But yeah, it's just because the rods are softer with fluorocarbon, you have a little bit of mix of a little bit of stretch. Braid obviously has next to none. Of course, monofilament has stretch in it and it floats. So if you are going to throw a little, tiny popper, you might want to go to the mono because it floats and have you a couple different setups. But, for doing that, it's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie to you. For somebody that likes, punching mats with an FP 936, it's pretty neat. So, you ready to give one of these away?
Yeah, let's do it. So
let's talk about what we got on here.
Yeah, let's show this one off because you just you mentioned the Ned rig here. So this setup, I know we have our CRB color series. This is obviously black.
Yep.
601L. I would imagine we got some CRB standard, I would say. Probably standard guides. And then we got a nice little handle in the back, you know, which again is just a shorter version. The guys have a nice, what's that?
I think they turned this one.
Okay, I was gonna say that looks like it's a custom piece.
Yeah, what we were doing is we were testing the new offset arms, so they were putting them in, turning some grips. But we'll put your handle set together, and to be honest with you, if you guys want some cork, I'll put the cork in there. If you want EVA, I'll put EVA in there. But you know, the real bodies are still gonna fit your 16 seat.
Correct.
So it's not like that you've got to come up with some random reel seat. It'll fit the common reel seat, size 16. So whether you want, you know, this one here has just the standard trigger seat from CRB. One of the ones we've got has an exposed seat and so on. But this one here, what we did is just a reverse nubbin here, your standard kind of butt cap, your two-piece fighting butt back here. And it's very plain on purpose. We do it to keep the weight down, to keep your balance points where they need to be. If you started loading this stuff up, you know, you might throw it off a little. And like you said with the guides, we're keeping it pretty low profile. I mean, I wouldn't put anything larger than size 5s on these. This would be where you could get into the micros if you wanted, but you're probably gonna have to start adding guides, because remember, most of the guide spacing, and I say this a lot, so, you know, try not to fry me on this. All right, the guide spacing that we do is as all around as we can possibly get it. We did not design guide spacing in these kits for a BFS rod, okay? Right. So let's keep in mind that static deflection, either using the spine finder or going over to the deflection chart, is very important for BFS style rods. Most of the time, you're gonna get a rod that flexes considerably farther back towards the handle. So you're gonna have to start adjusting your first guide. You know, instead of what, like on a mag taper blank, we're probably running it out 21, 20, somewhere in there. You know, depending on which blank, you might have to start backing this up a little, which is gonna back the other ones up. This is more of a moderate fast bend. The reason that we chose a blank with moderate fast is the Ned rig hooks are light, okay? You can flex them out. All of these small treble hooks, we're throwing a lot of hard body baits with treble hooks. For the bass fishermen, for the inshore guys, having a little bit more of a moderate fast, you know, action in a rod helps keep those treble hooks where they need to be, instead of pulling them out or having the fish throw them. So some of these blanks are gonna be geared towards treble hooks, small little baits like that. So the moderate fast in the CRB is great for that. But yeah, so we're gonna put this through and we're gonna draw a winner, and then we will put together, you know, with this color series, we'll see, you know, maybe we can mix it up a little. I don't know if they're gonna make me only give away the gloss black one, but we can play a little with handle and a little with rod blanks and stuff. I try to give y'all some leeway on picking your winner. So, are you guys ready to set it up? Cool. All right, let's go ahead and run that thing.
All right, first winner of the night.
Hopefully it's not Mudhole. Oh.
What do we got?
James Monroe.
James Monroe.
That'll work.
Congratulations, James.
Very nice. So, as we've mentioned before, we'll run the little ticker there at the bottom. I think you saw it. Please send an email to live@mudhole.com. That comes into me, and I will make sure to take, you know, if you've got any questions or comments, anybody is welcome to send an email over to that email. But please, as a winner, send me an email over to that, live@mudhole.com. It helps us to try to, you know, kind of rein in and separate winners and live questions from general emails. So.
Cool.
You want to talk a little bit? You know, we probably ought to get a little bit of questions here.
Yeah, let's do it.
You know, I'm gonna agree here. Light lures, big fish. That's exactly right. in the saltwater world, especially, if you're tarpon fishing or something, you get a big, giant tarpon might eat a tiny little fly. So we always say elephants eat peanuts. So that's exactly right. That'll happen. Is there any benefit to BFS versus ultralight spinning? That's a good question. We did touch on that a little bit. Hunter kind of, described your casting, your approach, all the presentation stuff, because of course your BFS and your ultralight spinning in terms of lure and line rating is really all the same. We're just trying to dial in the casting and the approach a little bit better. So this BFS for redfish throwing bugs lures, that's pretty close to my heart there. That's bugs with 2 G's though, by the way. And let's not try to tell the whole world about them. They're great. They come out of Texas. Heath runs that company. He's a really, really good guy. And of course, again, the bugs, bonefish, jig heads are great. They absolutely are. And that's the last we'll talk about that. But yeah, so let's see. Real quick, do you recommend mono or braid for these outfits? I tried to touch on that a little bit. If you're going to be using, hard baits, really shallow water, or floating, I would err on the side of either braid or mono. One, because it floats, and you need to kind of decide, do you want that extra stretch of mono or do you not? So, even if we're throwing a regular, like a Zara spook or something for bass, if you throw it on braid, I know you will throw sometimes a topwater bait on braid, but use a softer rod to add in some stretch rather than throwing it on mono and a stiffer rod and using the mono for the stretch. So I am going to be somebody that is probably going to throw the braid. I can sort of manipulate the braid a little better and use the softer rod. And then for everything else, I'm going to go just directly to fluorocarbon if I'm not throwing a topwater bait. So cool. All right.
Sweet.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about some blanks.
Let's do it.
So we've kind of touched on the power. The power range for most of these blanks is you're going to be looking for either an ultralight or a light. Nothing really more than that. You might find a medium light, especially if you're maybe fishing from a boat. A little bit longer rod. You might be able to go into like a medium light, especially if you're using a larger lure, relatively a larger lure. If you go up to this little whopper plopper or maybe a little bit larger plastic. In general though, most of these are going to be ultralight or light. And then as far as action goes, we touched on that a little bit. You want to be in that mod fast range. Mod fast is going to be great because you're still going to have a decent recovery speed, but you're also still going to be able to throw these treble hook baits and not worry about the fish, throwing the hooks or anything like that. You can probably go into a fast and be perfectly fine, but one thing that you definitely want to steer away from is an extra fast. I don't think extra fast really applies in this application. I think you're a little bit, I don't think you're going to get the proper, the technique of casting. If any of you guys have seen the videos of the guys using BFS in these small streams and creeks, they make some really impressive casts.
Very.
And that's not something that you can really do with an extra fast. They're doing a lot of underhand pitching and flipping. It's hard to describe without actually seeing it, but
sure.
An extra fast really isn't going to give you that type of ability to cast. It's just going to make it a lot harder. And on the opposite side of that, a very moderate or slow action is almost going to be too soft. And you're not going to get that recovery that you need to possibly, if you're fishing in a creek, get that fish away from a log or a tree or something like that. So,
or to actually work the lure.
Exactly. So that mod fast to fast is a good range for your action. For length, we talked about that. You want a shorter rod, especially if you're going to be hitting the creeks and the streams, anywhere from a 5.6 to possibly maybe a 6.6, but even 6.6 is really cutting it close. That sweet spot is really around 6 foot. That's going to give you enough length to actually make these flip casts and still have a little bit of accuracy and be able to get those fish out. So 6 foot's a good sweet spot to start with. If you feel like, I could definitely get away with doing a 5/6, then go for it. I think 6 foot is that good spot. So we did power, action, length. And of course, we've already talked about, you can do this as a budget build. You can do it as a mid-tier, possibly get into, the standard series of MHX into like the spinning category or spinning application. Those S series blanks, I think, is what we kind of refer to them as.
Yeah, and I actually pulled a couple here just to give y'all some ideas. So we talked about the IS601L. That is kind of entry level, mainly. I would only call it entry level because of cost, not because of really performance or anything, because again, I use the 701L inshore a lot. And I really, really like it. So, and I want to say a number of the guys actually liked that one a little bit better than some of the other ones they put together. But we did a popping model for kind of the mid-tier here. So this is the P783. This is probably the beefiest of them in terms of something that is still categorized as a BFS. This would be a BFS flipping rod, right? So this is probably a little heavier than you would tend to go with if you are trout fishing or things like that. But again, I mean, some heavy cover in Florida, ultralight. It really takes a lot of pressure to break like 6-pound fluoro. It really does. And of course, I know a lot of guys are in the group talking about being careful to use braid and whatnot. And that can absolutely be the case because of how thin those spools are. But, if you are using, 4 and 6-pound braid, it's like hair, thickness-wise. You don't have to pack it on ultra, tight. Clearly, you don't want it to dig into itself, but having to, stretch the braid to its maximum and crank it on, yeah, it might give you a little bit of an issue with a spool, but just be careful with that. It's something that you're using such thin braid that you shouldn't be crushing spools with it. But it's something that I know a lot of guys mentioned it in there because it can happen. But so anyway, this is a P783. Wind grips on it, exposed reel seat. Again, this is going to be something that you can throw something like a mini trap, but I still think you could throw maybe a short Senko on a worm hook, but still use 4 to 6 pound and get it done like that. More of a Florida type setup with it being 6.6, a 783 being 6.6 and a 3 power. It's still a popping model though, so it's not going to relate to an MB843 in terms of a 3 power.
Correct.
But this one is really nice. But keep in mind this is going to be on the stiffer side for a BFS. And then I saw earlier somebody asked about a 2-piece for a BFS. And yes, if you are if you're going away on a vacation, maybe to North Carolina, and the mother-in-law's up there, and you want to get out on a trout stream, and you don't fly fish, the 2-piece, this would be what we would call the premium level because this is out of the NEPS lineup. Do you remember the blank model on this?
What was this? 78 MLF? LMF.
Okay, 78 LMF, which is a light, moderate, fast. This is a 2-piece. It is also a 6.6. It being the L, it is lighter than the 783, of course. This is kind of a really, really nice do-all. You can throw a light trout lure on this, but you can also bass fish with it very easily. You can throw a little bit larger beetle spin if you're fishing a farm pond and it's got just some giant bluegill in it. A heavier beetle spin is an absolute blast on this. Now, for some of the really light stuff, that's probably more geared to, the trout streams. This one is going to be, as Hunter mentioned, out of the S. This is the spinning series. So this is going to be something that is, don't worry, I ain't going to get you.
Almost.
This is going to be something that's very light. This is a 1/32 to 3/16. So it's a 6-footer. It's 2 to 6 line. This is the S721. So it's a 6-footer. It's a 1-power, but is it a spinning 1-power? You can see blank diameters here are really getting down. This would be a really, really fun.
I mean, an absolute blast. Whether you're catching panfish, crappie, you're catching
Trout,
little trout, little bass out of a pond, like you mentioned. I mean, that 721 is, as far as just being very lightweight, small diameter. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's where I would, if I wasn't going to, a lot of the ones that we picked, which are a little, they were a little beefier BFS, so maybe like a BBFS is what we were doing. Just being in Florida, if you were fishing more panfish, trout, and stuff, I would get into that S721. For another trout option that maybe if you want to target some larger brown trout with, kind of like a jerkbait style lure. Those brown trout are notoriously meat eaters, so they're pretty aggressive. This is the SJ720. So this line is 4 to 8. It will also throw a 1/32, but it does bump up to a 1/4 ounce. The SJ, though, is a little faster in the tip. So I would choose it if we were going to go and target larger trout or some bass, and we were really working lures that required like very precise movements. Whether it was a really mini, like a walking bait, or something like a Lucky Craft pointer that is a jerk bait where you need the sensitivity, you need kind of micro movements to get that thing to dart. That's why I would go to an SJ instead of an S. Okay, so trying to differentiate these out for y'all so you can kind of maybe start crossing stuff off if you say, well, this is how I fish and this is where I fish. So we'll try to help you kind of narrow it down. So that's the SJ720. It is a different taper. So even though it's a 0-power in an SJ, it's gonna be beefier than a 1-power in the spinning. That's how the tapers are set up. And then the SJ782, somebody mentioned this in an email, and I only want to bring it up because the SJ782, I wouldn't really consider this BFS anymore. Really because we throw, an SJ842, not only for spinning, but for casting in a regular application. So that's really starting to get outside of the realm. I mean, I almost feel like even though, that line rating on a SJ782 is like 6 to 12, I feel like if I popped one with 4, like I could be breaking 4 with that rod. That rod, I think, has got a little too much.
Especially with the faster action. I mean, the diameters alone.
You could really start to tell a difference.
So we'll put these side by side and then give them a little, let's go, can we go this way?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So S series, spinning series would be over here. This guy.
You can hold him tighter, I think.
Yeah.
There you go.
Really small guy over here on my right side, and then the 720. Is that correct? Is in the middle.
Yes.
And then the 782 is on my far left side, and you can really see. I'm trying to get these side by side.
Yeah, they're perfect.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Huge difference in diameters.
Right.
And that's going to translate to not only more power in the butt section, like Chris mentioned, those SJs, the spin jigs, do have a faster taper. So you do have to be careful with line diameter, line size, and getting too fast of an action, and you're going to start popping lines.
Yeah, think of, we try to, this is across the board, but anything that is an SJ, think of it as like a diet mag bass taper. So it's like just a little bit lighter version of the mag bass series, but it's still, you know, you have a very powerful butt section and a little bit lighter midsection than a lighter tip. Just like the Mag Bass has a very powerful butt section, a powerful midsection, and a lighter tip. So, whereas a spinning series has much more of an arcing curve throughout. You know, it has some butt power, but it kind of levels the power out in the mid, and then it's softer in the tip. So, you know, if you put them on a chart, you would watch the mag taper be very rigid and then come over, and the spinning would just be, you know, it would just kind of gradually come over. So that's something that you need to kind of keep in mind, I would say. So, all right, cool. Let's give something else away. So we need to do the giveaway 2. This is the mid-level BFS rod, which is going to be the popping blank.
Sweet.
So we got a popping blank here. Hunter, what reel seat we got?
So that's a CXO. It's a CRB split.
Yes.
Seat. And then it looks like we have some wind style grips on here with a couple trim pieces.
Yep.
But this is actually a great choice for a reel seat.
For the BFS.
For the BFS. Any split style seat. It could be a CRB. We have, you know, Pac Bay Minima is a very popular one. Fuji SK2 is very popular. So if you're looking to kind of go for that very minimalistic, ultra light, not only with your rod blank, but also your components, the split style seat is right up that alley. So.
Yep. Coming out here in the guides, this is a guide train that honestly I would probably run for any BFS build, no matter if I wanted to be very expensive or budget friendly or whatever, because these guides are the SSR series. They're very light, they're very strong. We're talking stainless steel frames, stainless steel inserts. We've used them with braid, we've used them with fluorocarbon. They weigh literally nothing, and their cost is inexpensive for excellent performance. So, you know, I would run it on all of them. You know, let's be honest, like not taking anything away from the other CRB or the LZR guides, which are incredible as well. But if you want to stay as ultralight as you possibly can and still maintain some really good performance, these SSRs are the deal for sure. So we'll get you dialed in there. And real quick, before you run that giveaway, I want to put this question up because I think this is a really good question while we were just talking about that. John asked, how about a spiral wrap for a BFS? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've admitted in the past, I'm not a spiral wrap guy, okay? I did it on a slow pitch rod. It was great. I think it's almost all or nothing on a slow pitch. If you're fishing it conventional, make sure you have it spiral wrapped. I'm not gonna say that with anything else, honestly, but the BFS having it in terms of a spiral wrap, I think would also be an excellent idea, especially if you're erring on even lighter than some of the ones we have here. Because again, this is BFS Florida edition, right? So these are a little bit beefier than maybe that S721. But the S721 we talked about, you're not going to sacrifice any casting, distance, ability with a spiral wrap, and it would be quite nice, to be honest with you. I would still use the SSRs on that probably just because the lighter that rod gets, I would want to maintain those light, you know, guides and stuff. So there you go. You can put that in the highlights that Chris suggested one other application for a spiral wrap than just the slow pitch. So, all right, now that we got that out of the way, great question. Let's go ahead and run that second giveaway. We're giving away the popping model here. CXO reel seat, throw some wind grips in there, and let's go ahead and hit that button. Did I see Chuck Norris in there?
Who do we got? Joe McDonough.
Perfect.
Nice. Congrats,
Love
Joe.
It. Coming out of YouTube. Joe, we appreciate you watching, and congratulations. Yep. Again, live at mudhole.com.
Got it.
Cool.
All right.
Hunter Man, what we got next?
Let's talk a little guide spacing.
Okay.
And to kind of follow up on what you just said, you know, the spiral wrap idea, I think, is great in more ways than one. I think it actually probably makes it a little bit easier.
Northwest Fly Guy asks, are spiral wraps cosmetic or?
No, they actually do work, for sure.
Keep going.
I think to what you were kind of saying, to your credit, I think in certain applications it doesn't shine as much as it does in, let's say, slow pitch, heavy saltwater offshore rods. In this application, though, I could see it being very, very beneficial, and we'll show it on this spine finder in a minute. One thing that you're going to struggle with is getting the line to stay off your rod blank in this. When you're doing guide spacing and static deflection with these BFS rods, because they're light, they're ultralights, they're going to have a lot of bend in them. It's going to be a little difficult. Sometimes you're going to have to add some guides. Now, with a spiral wrap, the faster you can turn that line and get it on the underside of your rod blank, you don't have to worry about that line coming into contact with your rod blank anymore.
You don't want any wildly sharp angles, but you can certainly decrease the amount of guides on something like this.
Yes. So even in a case like that, I think it is beneficial to do it. Aside from even performance-wise, I think setting up the rod and getting that line off your rod blank and getting it to the underside, it kind of, alleviates the need to add extra guides to keep that line off the blank. So, and like you said, maybe you have to, do the spacing, adjust the spacing a little bit more, but
Yeah, you would have to adjust it a little bit.
hopefully you wouldn't have to add any more guides.
I don't think so. I don't want to draw a line in the sand here.
Right.
But if somebody said, what are the chances of adding an extra guide with standard guide on, running on the top or spiral wraps, I can almost guarantee you're going to have to add guides if you run a traditional guide layout.
Right.
And I can almost guarantee you're not going to have to add any extra guides than, maybe you would think if you turned it over and ran it out spiral.
Yep.
Could almost guarantee.
Something
Almost. Never say never, but pretty close. Pretty close. Yeah. Cool. You want to maybe we'll put this guy in.
Yeah, we already got line for
That's
it, so let's do it.
Careful. I don't want to Ned you.
Let's see that.
These left-handed reels, too. What is this, yours?
Might as well be.
I know, right? All right. So we're going to use the spine finder this evening rather than the deflection chart, just because we've got the room. So we try to show you guys goods and bads, right?
Good stuff here.
Yeah, pretty good. I would err on the side of caution coming back this way a little bit. These are getting pretty close, okay? They're not touching, which is excellent. But earlier we talked about the use of micro guides, all right? If you're going to use something like a 4 or a 3, you have to remember and be aware that not only is that going to change the inner diameter of the guide, okay, that also means that that guide is going to be closer to the rod blank. So which means what you could get away with spacing with size 5s, you probably ain't going to get away with it if you go to like a 3 or a 4. So you just also have to keep that in mind. Now the good news is if you use some SSRs and you get them in 4s, like I said, they're very inexpensive. So get you a handful of them for sure, because you might need to add more than you think. This rod's not even over at a 90-degree angle. We try, again, when we do this static deflection stuff, you don't need to take and bend this rod up under itself like the old ugly stick commercials of, my childhood. These are much nicer rods than that, so we don't need to do that. So this is a situation if you don't want to take it over to about a 90, but you can see you do get a little bit of flex back here. So whereas in a mag taper, this little bit of space down here in between, the reel and your first double footer, that would never be that close. NBA 43, NBA 74, that'd never be like that. So you just have to keep that in mind. Jake did a great job laying these out, building them. I think he actually wrapped some of the guides with his hair from his mullet. No. But he did an incredible job laying these out, putting them together. You can see the spacing is right on. I'm like him. I like to run it right to the edge of the envelope. I mean, I like it. I don't ever want it to touch, but I don't want to also put like 18 guides on this rod.
Right.
So you kind of want to walk that fine line of, okay, you know, that's close to touching, but it's not touching, so I'm going to leave it. So, because all you're going to be doing is adding weight. So this, I spoke about it before. Please, please understand that standard guide spacing for casting guide setups. We did that before BFS was even a thing. You cannot take an MB874 guide spacing on the back of a package and expect it to also go on an S871 ultralight. It's just not going to happen. So you're going to have to do a little bit of static deflection. And if you don't have a spine finder, or you don't have a deflection chart, that's okay. You know, you can put your hand, find your spine, put your handle on. You can stick it behind a couch cushion, and you can do it like that. Or, you know, get your kid or loved one involved and have them hold it. You know, get them involved in rod building like that. They can be your own spine finder. So trust me, you're going to want to do a deflection chart. You don't want to just put 18 guides on here, and you also don't want to just put 7 and just hope for the best, because it'll be a mess, trust me.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And yeah, as usual, the whole goal here is to keep that line off of the rod blank. And if that requires, you know, using the suggested spacing and then going back and tweaking each guide here and there, that's great. If you come into a situation where you just cannot get that line off of the rod blank, you're going to have to add another guide. That's all there is to it.
Period.
And like we mentioned earlier, if you want to, if you're fairly new to spiral wraps, or if you're a pro at them, I think this would be a great application, because you're going to be able to get that line by, you know, say the second or sometimes even the third guide. You're going to be able to get that line to the underside of this rod blank, and then from there, you don't have to worry about it touching the rod blank, but you definitely need to make sure there's no drastic or sharp angles, which in my opinion is a little bit easier to avoid than the opposite of being on top.
For sure.
But
remember, you know, as we talked before, just a quick, you want to make sure that your first guide, you're not on the blank. Then if you notice out here in the apex, pull that a little bit. Yeah. So out here in the apex, there's a guide like perfectly right at it, okay? And then you'll work this way, and then you'll work back this way, right? You're always going to want a guide right there at the apex of the curve. Set your stripping guide here. Make sure you don't have any touch. And then almost you could probably nail it without a ruler or a tape measure and kind of get it aesthetically correct by moving some guides a little bit. Out here in the tip, you know, you probably never want to be farther than 3 inches, and probably never closer than 2 1/4. So that kind of hits there, and then just space a little more here, and then kind of work your way. But you've got to have one on the apex, or you're going to touch there every time. I promise you. So that's a couple. Get those 3 guides set, and then go from there, and it'll make it a lot easier. Cool.
Sweet.
All right.
And that does it for guide spacing. Sure. And those rules apply for all.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Everything.
Everything.
But you're going to see, I think you're going to see a more noticeable, I would say probably more difficulty, I would say probably laying these out. You're dealing with less guides, but with a light or an ultralight rod with more bend than a medium or a heavy rod blank, you're going to have to deal with these sharp angles, the line touching the rod blank. So just a little bit, a couple of things extra to watch out for.
For sure. All right. What else do we have going on? We need to talk about handles just a little bit. Somebody did ask a question. I like that. Hobie One Kenobi. That's nice. Where did some of Jake's inspirations from BFS come from? Sometimes I don't know where any of Jake's inspirations come from.
Yeah, you got to be careful asking that question sometimes.
No, I'm just playing. You know, what I think they wanted to do is, and of course the camera guys are like pointing at them like they came up with it, which, you know, I don't know about all that. But, so anyway, you know, think of it as you're building this for performance, like to keep it lightweight, comfortable handles, but you can do a little, a few different things with it. You don't have as much room to work with in your handle section as maybe you do on a normal one, but it's not like you have to completely reconfigure a handle or you have to change it incredibly or anything like that. I mean, this would be, if you wanna get with, turn on the flux capacitor and go back to the 80s, you could throw a pistol grip on this thing, because you might not do a pistol grip on a 7.6 because you probably break your wrist on it, but something like this, a short handle, go all retro. Go with Jake and y'all go to Goodwill and find all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'd get the pistol grip out. I would, or just figure out, me. I'm pretty basic and boring when it comes to this stuff. All of my rods have the same guides and the same handle setup and all that stuff. But that's just because I like it all to feel the same when I pick it up, whether it's a 874 or an 873 or whatever. I want all the handles to be the same. I don't want to be, oh, this one is Win and this one's a full cork and this one's a whatever. But if you have a handle that you love on a bass rod that is not a BFS rod, there's no reason that you can't do the same setup. It's obviously just going to be a shorter rear grip length.
Yep, which is exactly what we got here, right? So
yeah.
This is this is the 70, what do we say, 78 LMF.
LMF, yes.
Okay. So with a shorter rod, obviously we are going to have a shorter handle, and that applies across the board, whether it's a 6-footer or a 6.9. But still, these are even shorter. You want to go shorter. You want to be able to, essentially, the way I think of it, when I move this, and this is just me, it's just my thinking, a little bit outside the box.
Sure.
Typically with most of my rods, I have them, I'm going to move over just this way a little bit. I usually have that to where the end of the back of this butt grip is going to fall somewhere right in here.
Okay.
So almost like it is.
It's very scientific.
It's right there, right?
Right.
So that way it's almost like a little cushion right there.
Okay.
So that it doesn't move as much.
Sure.
And that's because when I'm fishing a rod, I typically am pointing a certain direction and I don't want it to move off of my forearm.
Of course.
With this one, it's a little bit different. Again, you're doing those little trick cast, roll cast.
Yeah.
You almost want to have
you're not just rearing back and going over the top of your head.
You almost want to have that versatility of that handle to kind of be able to move and flip it and not catch your arm in any sort of way.
Yeah, or your sweatshirt or your jacket.
Shirt, exactly.
Anything.
So you want that shorter handle length to kind of accommodate the style of fishing you're doing, and that's those little underhand casts and maneuvers that you typically wouldn't be doing.
Absolutely.
And we have a tape measure. I meant to measure this earlier. I would say that's, you got one? Perfect. What do we got for a length on this guy?
Now remember, we always measure from the back of the reel seat. Whoa!
7 3/4, 8?
7 5/8.
7 5/8. Final verdict there. So, and besides that, as far as the handle goes,
whereas I don't have a regular casting rod that's shorter than like 10 1/4.
Right.
So, there you go.
Yeah.
You knocked off 3.5 inches just right out of the gate without doing anything.
Right.
So,
as far as anything outside of the length of your handle, everything else can kind of stay the same. Again, if you want to go with more of a lighter weight approach, you can go with the split seat.
Yep.
Shave some weight there. You guys notice that most of these incorporate the split grip still, so you're saving weight there. But as Chris mentioned, even if you want to go with a pistol grip, if you want to go with, we have the EVA version as well. We have the cork version. So great options there. But if you still want to stick with the split grip option, you still can on these rods. You're not limited to certain components, or you have to use, BFS style components. That's not the case here.
Yep.
You can still use your standard, this is a GEC reel seat from CRB. We've got the decorative insert in there. We have the no thread hood on the front here with the cork piece. This doesn't differ too much from any standard 7-foot, freshwater rod that I would build to, do anything else with. So you can still use the similar components that you would on other rods and incorporate them into this BFS style rod. The only thing that's going to be different, as we've said several times, is the length of that handle.
Yeah.
Definitely shorten it up because when you do these casts and everything, if it is too long, it's going to be a pain. It's going to get in your way. So
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
got good questions over there?
Oh yeah, but remember, we have rapid fire Q&A,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we can't, we can't turn them all loose right this second. I will hit this one here really quick though, because I didn't buy the reels, so maybe we could, I'll go into the booth on this one. Brian Sherwood, I fish ultralight spinning, but can I get a decent BFS reel for around $100? Isn't this Cast King $100, boys? It's like 80? Was this an Amazon find? Yeah. And BFS, Cast King, I threw this. It's actually pretty nice. I can dig it. I mean, if you want one for under $100, it's lightweight. It's got some dual cast controls on it. Nice little EVA knobs. Is what it is. I mean, I would love though, and I haven't done it, but I would like to, maybe get a regular casting reel, put some backing on it, maybe just take some old braid that's lying around, and then just like top shot that braid with 75 yards of some ultralight fluoro. I would just be curious. I know that it makes a difference, but in terms of casting and whatnot with lure weight, but that whopper plopper's got a little whopper to it, so you might be able to still throw that.
Yeah.
Some of the ultralight stuff you might not be able to, but that
Right.
one you might be able to. So, Brian, hopefully that answers your question. I think that's a good option for you. Somebody said, do you think that new double-sided reel seat so you can go with either casting or spinning? Whew, I bet we could put one together for you. Trouble and Hal. That's not too bad. You might,
BFS spin caster?
That's it. Just wait. April 1st, 2023. It's going to hit the market. All right, cool. What else? I want to say we can probably just go to, Mike Foster right here. The Zephyr was $59 a couple weeks ago. Bought one. That's this guy right here.
Yep.
The Cast King Zephyr. $59. Cool. Sounds like you got ripped off, Phil. Perfect. All right. Perfect. Do you guys want to move on? All right, to the rapid fire Q&A. All right. Are you guys ready back there? We're gonna have to put the clock on. Gonna have to get the hot pads out because it's getting ready to get hot in here.
Fire and flames and the clock.
That's it. Is that what it is? All right, so it looks like it's time for rapid fire Q&A. We're gonna put 7 minutes on the clock. I'm gonna get over here to the starred comments. You guys, we got 7 minutes on the clock? All right, there it is, and we're running. Let's see. Those were all that. How about in heavy winds? Mr. Boltinghouse. Honestly, most of the BFS stuff, you're probably not going to be in super open water. But if you got your cast control set right, you're probably going to lose some distance, but you probably won't blow the reel up, in terms of a backlash. I think you'd be okay. But I do think that that's where a BFS reel is going to kind of shine because you'll have it tuned for that. Let's see, what's the heaviest line you would use?
Oh, probably 8 or 10. I really probably wouldn't go over 8, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, I know some of those braid diameters are super, super small, but we were flexing out some hooks on these little Ned rigs, and what was the braid we were using on that one, guys? Probably, we were using 10?
10.
10-pound braid, so I think that was even a little heavy, to be honest with you. Joseph, do you recommend a two-piece for BFS? Absolutely, especially when going and visiting, traveling around and doing that stuff. The NEPS and the Color Series, CRB. So we still offer a two-piece if you don't want to, spend as much for the NEPS models. Both are excellent, and you'll have both, lights and ultralights and stuff in both. So yeah, absolutely do that. Why not braid with a mono leader? Only because if you're going to drop to really, really, really light or small guides. You know, if you tie something like an Alberto knot and you're using really light braid and then some like 4-pound mono, I think you're still okay. Or if you make sure that your leader's not very long enough, I mean, I like a braid to mono setup, yeah. But just kind of be aware of that, just depending on your guide train, really. Jig size, weight-wise, would you recommend for BFS? Honestly, if you're going all the way down to ultralight stuff, you can get some crappie jigs. You know, we're talking like what, 1/32?
32nd, 16th.
Yeah, some really small stuff. I wouldn't worry about weight in terms of that. Michael, is a 17 seat that much different from a 16? So, a couple things about the 17. We're talking about external body size. There is a difference. About 99.9% of a bass rod on the market, doesn't matter what size, is going to be built with a 16. The size 17s are going to be a larger inner diameter and, of course, a larger outer diameter. Now, if you maybe have some arthritis or something that maybe gripping a very small reel seat is uncomfortable for you, go to the 17. It's not going to be something that's going to be unfishable by any stretch. And you can put any one of these casting reels in a 17. It's just going to be a larger outside body. It's going to feel, you know, a little bit bigger. Somebody said the S. Joe, one of our winter guys here, made a killer BFS rod with an S661.
Great blank.
That would be an excellent option. Let's see. The model of the popping blank was a P783. I would also venture into some of the lighter weights if you're not fishing around, you know, a heavier cover or some thicker grass. And again, back to the line, we were using braid because that braid cuts the lily pad stems and the pencil reeds and, you know, all of the grass that we have down here that some places don't have. We also erred on the side of using braid for that. Interested and started building rods. How hard is it? If he and I can do it, I promise you, you can do it. So we've got all the videos, everything you need on YouTube. You can watch. We have, which you're on YouTube, so just go to the Mudhole, you know, YouTube library. You can see everything, or call one of the customer service guys or gals downstairs. They will help you out immensely.
And Scott, check out the FSB-2. That is our basic starter supply kit, equipment kit, FSB2. About $160 and get all the supplies and tools you need to start building.
It's the deal for sure. Eric, I like this one. Could you use the TFW 721, which is an MHX 6-foot 3-piece travel for this application? Yes, it is great. The TFW is actually modeled after the spinning series. So I pulled the S721. You mentioned a TFW 721-3. It's the same blank, just 3-piece. So that one is going to be a great blank. For travel rod, saltwater, I've taken the TFW 842-3. I haven't built it casting, but you absolutely could. But we've caught bonefish and permit on that rod with those bugs lures down in Belize and Mexico. So that would be a great option. Those TFWs are spinning blanks. The TRs are SJs, most of them, in the lighter powers. Let's see. Is there anything in the CB line that would qualify? I think the lightest CB we've got is a 1-power. I think it is a CB 841. The CB 841 I have used for like a 16th and an 1/8 ounce jig in saltwater. I built it as spinning. I know it would work as casting. It might be considered a little more, maybe like that BBFS that I was mentioning, a little heavier than a regular BFS, but it would be really, really good. It wouldn't be something that you would normally build a casting rod out of. So yeah, it would probably be great. Again, 661L BFS, it's great. Let's see. Max length for a BFS rod. There's really no max length, honestly. We have a 7.3, either a 0 or a 1-power. I think we have an Elite X NSJ $870.
Right. Yeah, if you're fishing off a boat especially,
Yeah.
and you can afford to, deal with that extra rod length, that's where those,
14
7, 7.2, that's where that really shines.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we were thinking longer though. The 781 is only 6.6. So, all right, that's it, folks.
Ding, ding, ding.
Nice. Whoo! We're sweating from all the heat. All right. Hopefully that answered most of your questions. And as with all of the Mud Hole Live Rod Builders Workshop, this show we did tonight, we really, really love and appreciate everybody, kind of throwing their 2 cents in here, giving recommendations, giving blank recommendations, saying like, maybe this, try that. And that's really what we've tried to foster in the rod building workshop and with these shows. We certainly, hopefully we don't come across on this show like we know it all, because we certainly don't. But we try to get y'all's brains turning, come up with ideas, not to just figure it out on your own, but Hunter might say something to me in passing today that I might be like, I completely didn't even think about that. How did I not think about that? Hopefully, we on the show or others in the groups can help, spawn some of those cool ideas, especially in something that's kind of like new to BFS. Because I haven't been doing BFS at all, hardly, right? So we're just trying to put this stuff together. We get to test things, and thankfully we've got 80,000 square feet where we can walk around and go, no, not this piece, maybe this piece. So we're trying to narrow that window for everybody at home, whether it's slow pitch rod or it's a BFS, so that you're not out in the sea of rod building components, lost. Yep. We're trying to narrow it down, but it's definitely, this isn't the pure end all be all on BFS, but hopefully it's going to get you guys headed in the right direction. Yep. And you need to talk about the premier one, because we're going to give this one away too. Two-piece.
Two-piece. So this is the two-piece Elite Pro. This is the LMF, the Light Mod Fast. Two-piece.
I actually use the Light Moderate Fast as a spinning rod in saltwater too.
Right.
So this would be great. I don't use this shorter version, but we make it in a 78, an 82, and an 86. Mm-hmm. So this is the 78.
Yep. We have some LZR guides in Gunsmoke. And then, of course, the handle setup, we talked about that earlier. Nice split grip with cork. And we're going to throw in a reel seat for you guys, too. So,
perfect. This
is the last giveaway of the night. This is the premium BFS rod setup that we put together.
Absolutely.
And we're going to get a lucky winner out of the crowd.
Go ahead and run that giveaway.
And the lucky winner is...
Come on, Mud Hole. I want to throw some... Oh, yes.
Our good buddy Bill.
This is fantastic, because we just saw Bill not too long ago.
Well, Bill.
All right, Bill.
I guess you got a BFS setup headed your way. Congratulations.
Now, since you won it, we're also going to need to see, some photos. We expect you to go all out on this, because not only, is he incredibly good, he's also super technical. He can kind of help us. We love your feedback on it and the whole deal. Now, you're going to have to bring it in and let us see it in person. So, no photos and stuff. So, but yeah, bring it in and we'll take some pictures and stuff like that. And yeah, it's going to be excellent. I love it. I love it.
Great. Good stuff.
Cool. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We're going to get you out of here just inside 8 o'clock. Good group tonight, had about like 275 people and a lot of questions. Hopefully we got to almost all of them. If we don't answer it live on the show, I know the guys in the war room will take care of a lot of that. So again, thank you for watching the photo contest. Run over to that Mud Hole Live Rod Builders Workshop and vote. Not yet, because we haven't posted it. But keep an eye, because we will post it. We'll put the 3 winners that are the top 3. We'll put the top 3 with their images and their names. All you got to do is click on the poll. That will close on the 1st. We'll announce those winners there. So that's how you will figure out who wins the different ones. So we're also going to put together a new topic for the next photo contest. That has not been determined yet. The next show topic, though. All right, so we are, is this 88, right?
Yep.
89.
This is 89?
89?
Okay,
Oh.
so it's taken 6 years, which we actually missed our 6-year anniversary, right? It was June 6th? Yeah. So June 6th was our 6th year anniversary of this show. And we figured finally after 90 episodes, so the next show will be on weaving. And the show title is called Bobbin and Weaving. So there it is. We've been trying to avoid it, so we've been bobbing and weaving. So that one will be episode 89. Yeah, not 90, 89, whatever. Whatever. So
Got a cool little sneak preview.
yeah, that was something that I worked on the last 2 weeks to do a 30-string weave. No. But so what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through a little bit of weaving. We're going to show you how to set it up. We're not going to do anything super cool like you've seen, like Shrek or Starvin' Marvin or a portrait of Grandma or anything like that. But we're going to introduce you to weaving. Hopefully, get you guys on the right track. So you can do it at home. I had to go through and learn how to set it up. And of course, Todd was a big help, and Bob and all the guys that have done it, for years and whatnot. So we're going to walk you through a little bit of weaving. And I think we'll leave you with that. Of course, we've got a little celebration here at the end of the show that you will see coming up. Jake Hutchinson with Jake Hutchinson is going to show it. And so we appreciate everybody tuning in. We had Steve and in the war room, and then of course we had Birdman in there too, right? We had Matt with 2 T's on the Zoom. We had Uncle Phil on the 1s and 2s, who's moving up because Jay's deciding that he's gonna, move on, which we're happy for him. But he's still gonna be watching and commenting, and if we have any other, technical difficulties, we're just going to call him back and have him fix it. Hopefully he wasn't sabotaging the sound tonight. So anyway, as always, my left-hand man, Hunter McCamey. I'm Chris Adams. Guys, celebrate the Mullet Minute. He's got a milestone, and it's worth it. We'll see you guys coming up for Bobbin and Weaving next month, and have a great night.
Thanks for watching.
See ya.
Welcome to the Mullet Minute with Jake Hutchison. I am Jake Hutchison. And as you can see, we're not in the normal place. We're on vacation. We hit 100,000 followers on TikTok this month, so I took some time off. And I'm in paradise. But I'm not gonna leave y'all hanging. I'm still gonna give you some content. But first, I wanna shout out Bob, who shops in the showroom at Mudhole, and Bill Falconer. Thank you guys. We grew the Mudhole TikTok from 0 to 100,000 followers in a little bit over a year. And that's incredible, thanks to all of your support. Now we're gonna run through some of my favorite TikToks we made over the last year. talked to the rod god Todd, our head blank designer. He gave me this beautiful, he gave me this awesome Todd the rod god. Wow, the memories. This has been the Mullet Minute with Jake Hutchison. I am Jake Hutchison.